Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Good Thursday, everybody. Welcome aboard. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the confines of the Eagle Point Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Dustin Schutte with me as always. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Doing second of a back-to-back. I hope the vocals hold up for a second straight day. But I'm doing good otherwise. How are you?
I cannot complain. Can't complain. Lots of basketball last night. It was great to get out into a gym with people. Again, I was at the state finals, but was kind of much further away then. This was nicer, just more intimate. It was fun. I got to say, it was fun just being out. But got to see some people. Saw, daggone it. Andy retired from the Herald last year. Daggone it. Drawing a blank on his name right now. But saw Andy last night. But it was just get out and see some basketball. Man, the juniors gave the seniors a challenge. And they didn't have Jalen Washington. Speaking of which, we'll hear from Jalen Washington. We'll hear from CJ Gunn. CJ had a rough shooting night, but man, he still found ways to contribute. He had 3 blocks, one of which he roared through the lane for a pretty good dunk. And then on the next play at the other end, goes down and blocks Caleb First, who he gives up several inches to, and was the best player, probably on the floor, Mr. Basketball. But that was a very nice sequence.
A little preview, too, because those two are going to end up being rivals here in a few years. CJ Gunn going to Indiana, Caleb First committed to Purdue. So there's little preview there for everybody.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more. Armand Hill has joined the Indiana basketball staff. We're going to talk about that. Of course, more about the Indiana All-Stars. We'll hear from them. Let's see. Mike DeCourcy joins us today. Forgot about that. John, you forgot about that one, huh? Mike DeCourcy joined us today as opposed to
I did not.
I forgot about it. But Chris Denari will be with us as well. And we'll see what else we can get going for you today. But plenty to talk about.
Pacers making a big change yesterday.
Yeah, that was right after we finished doing the show, which, as par for the course, Bob Kravitz is on saying, all right, what are the Pacers going to do?
Yep.
Bam, right afterwards, they do it. So what thoughts there? You're Mr. Pacer, man.
I mean, I get it. I'm not big on the 1 year thing and then firing him. I wasn't big on them extending Nate McMillan a season ago and then firing him. So it's really, I don't know what is going on with this organization. If you watch Kevin,
but you can't leave that guy in place. That's like saying Archie Miller. I mean, he had to go. And I kept saying that because of this. Now, look, you can use Indiana basketball as the perfect example. Mm-hmm. If he had not gone, if they did not do what they did, they would be in a black hole right now of players deserted probably. But look what has happened. It is a turnaround already. So sometimes I agree, but they screwed up and they knew that. They could not compound that screw up by not doing something.
Well, the problem is I was okay with it until I listened to Kevin Pritchard talk, and I'm interested to get Chris Denari's thoughts on this later when we talk to him, because I didn't feel any better as a Pacers fan listening to that press conference. Basically, it basically sounded like Kevin Pritchard went as far as to say, we need team leaders. We don't have any team leaders. That's not a good sign.
They don't. They don't.
He talked about having liking these players individually, but they had no team chemistry. That's a problem. So there were also times when it sounded like he wanted to bring a large chunk of this core back, and I think that that's a really good core if they play together. When they did play together, they could beat some really good teams. But there was also points in the interview later on where he said maybe we're not going to return a lot of these players. So it just seems like there's so much up in the air right now. I didn't feel.
Well, that's what they do. That's so they don't commit to anything.
Okay, but to have the season you just had, to make this big change and have it sounds like they have no direction. I understand from the politically correct standpoint and not being committed, and obviously you have to deal with free agency trades, but I just don't know what the plan is. I don't know what the trajectory. Usually in the offseason, at least with the Pacers organization, and I don't know about other organizations, you've known what their strategy is. They have some sort of focus that they want to, gear their teams towards. They have a certain roster piece that they want to keep. They don't have that leader. They don't have that star player. So you don't know if they're going to build around a guy, if they're going to build around a nucleus. Are they going to try to trade for someone? It's just, I don't feel comfortable with this whole situation. And it's really the last 2 years because, Nate McMillan probably wasn't the right guy, but then why did you extend him in the first place and then fire him 2 weeks later? That makes zero sense to me. And then you bring in
now see that's that one right there. That's the leadership. You talk about on-court leadership. You've got no leadership behind there.
Yes.
You cannot extend somebody and then fire them 2 weeks later and then and do this too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I think that personally, if the situation was a different team in a different city, I would be saying that guy's got to go. There would be no question about it.
Yeah, and I do wonder if there's going to be a point at some point. I mean, I think Kevin Pritchard might be feeling the heat a little bit. The interesting thing he did say was, we wanted to take a chance. We wanted to bring in some guy who had a championship pedigree, and basically said that Nate Bjorkgren was not ready for the head coaching job. And he had a lot of things he did well, a lot of things he didn't do well. And I think that player management, human relationships was not Nate Bjorkgren's strong suit. And that's a big problem in the NBA because that's the number one.
Especially he's a young guy. How old is he?
You would ask that, and I have no idea.
He doesn't seem like he's that old, is what I was asked.
Right. No, I think you're right on that. So I don't know. We'll get Chris's thoughts. He's going to be much more down to earth. He's much more down to earth on these kind of subjects. He doesn't get too high or too low. I just know watching that interview, I had no idea
45.
What the future of the organization is going to be, whether they're going to have whether there's going to be a wholesale change, a whole blow up, or whether they're going to keep a good majority of these players. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And yesterday, Bob Kravitz talked about wanting to trade. He thought that Miles Turner would be gone. I still think Domantas Sabonis is the one that you want to trade because he's going to get more. You're going to get more for your buck with him. And I think Miles is a better defensive player, and he can step out and shoot the three a little bit better, in my opinion. But I don't think we're going to see one of those guys is not going to be back next year, in my opinion.
I agree. I'm looking at Nate Bjorkgren's background. He's 45, by the way. He's from Iowa originally, but he went to college in South Dakota and Buena Vista. And then there's just a coaching career that starts, it says 2004 to present, and it starts with the Cactus Shadows in high school. Then he was an assistant to the Iowa Energy, the Dakota Wizards, Iowa Energy, the Jam. Then in 2015, he moved into the NBA side. But I don't know. It's just, I think he seems to have skipped a step. When you don't coach in college at some point, I think, or around college kids, I think because that gives you a different perspective because those are the guys you're going to have to be dealing with later. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not. But you would have thought being around older guys as much as he was, most of the time, that people skills wouldn't have been a problem. But maybe it is because those guys are elite. There's a lot more elitists there, and
Right.
he's a low end coach. Nobody cares about. Those guys get funny about stuff. The high end, they're right. You gonna talk to him? Who's he? I don't know. So I'm just here spitballing. Not that it matters.
I think you're right, because you look at a guy like Nate McMillan, just for an example, the guy who played in the league, a guy who's been coaching in the league for a very long time. There's a respect there, even if you don't like the guy, you respect him because he's been doing it a long time. He knows what he's talking about. And with Bjorkgren, I wonder if there was a tipping point where. Obviously there was at some point in the season, he said something or his actions did something and he lost basically his team. And another interesting thing was basically Kevin Pritchard saying in this, we got to have a good staff from the head coaching job all the way down to the last assistant on the bench. And he made it seem like Bjorkgren just didn't have very good hires on his assistant coaching side. And that's a big deal in the NBA too. I mean, you go back to Frank Vogel and Nate McMillan, and those guys had Dan Burke and Popeye Jones and some other big name assistant coaches on their staff, and the players really respected that. They had offensive and defensive coordinators. You didn't really
probably haven't traveled in a while.
Go ahead. I hit
Don't worry.
something I shouldn't have hit. I can't get it to stop now.
just trying to get me to stop talking about the Pacers. That's all.
Big commercials from something that pops up. It's like, gee whiz. Sorry, go ahead.
But I guess the silver lining here is that you have a chance now to get somebody who is respected, a guy maybe like a Terry Stotz with Indiana ties, a guy who's been coaching in the league for a while. We'll see who else might open up, or if you make a poach for another somebody who's an assistant coach. I don't know. I think you have to go with experience here. I'm guessing Terry Stotz is the number one candidate.
Dude, do you know where Terry Stotz went to high school?
Bloomington North, right?
Yes. A Bloomington guy who played at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Kevin Brockway was asking me last night, why didn't Bob Knight recruit him? And I'm like, I said, I think it was because they were simply loaded.
Right.
I said, look at and that was a team that should have had Larry Bird on it.
Yes, that's true.
George McGinnis would have been gone by then, but should have had Larry Bird on it still. But that's probably why I'd have to go back and look. A kid from Bloomington, that good, how he escapes no matter what. That's still, I need to talk to someone who was around then and knows more. I can research that, but I'd rather talk to somebody. We've got to take a break, but we're going to talk about Terry Stotz a lot more. I mean, he is a big time candidate for this job. How cool would that be? I mean, for a Bloomington guy to get that job. What's going on in baseball? My Reds, they're back. They swept the Cardinals. They lost one to Milwaukee, but then they were back last night with a win. So Garrett Cole's taking more heat. Sticky stuff. Before we break, I got to give him credit for answering the quote. We'll come back and talk about it more. But baseball, sticky stuff. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Hey, Hoosier fans.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Man, my throat. I haven't heard from Mike yet, and he hasn't.
Mike?
DeCourcy.
Oh, Mike DeCourcy.
The guy you keep forgetting about. But he normally retweets the promo.
I'll send him a text.
Okay, yeah. I sent him one, but you can send him another if you need to.
Well, he may respond to me. I'm kidding.
He normally responds to me, so
I'm kidding. It was a joke.
I know. I understand. I'm being joked at.
I am sending you a text right now for a special guest
for today.
Send the link out, please, for 10:20.
For 10:20. All right.
Dun, 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 dun.
You're
is that middle initial supposed to be in there, or is that a typo? I'm just curious.
Man,
make sure
try it. See if it goes through. I think it's supposed to be.
I hope so. I mean, it'll probably go through regardless, whether it's his email or not.
What? No, not necessarily.
I guess if
Not
it's
right.
actually if it's an inactive account, it'll reject it, but we'll send it out.
TSN Mike.
TSN Mike needs to be joining us.
Oh, excuse me. That's a treat for the live viewers.
Oh,
What's
don't
that?
worry.
Do what?
I said that was a treat for the live viewers. I burped.
Yeah, here we go. Talk about that one. Good question, Brian. I agree with you, man. That's what we were talking about earlier.
When
will Kevin Pritchard be held? I mean,
Yep.
dude, you can't. I trust. If he was anywhere else, he's gone. Hey, Brian, I didn't see that, man.
He's 1020 or 1040, Jim.
1020. Brian, where are you from? Let's see.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring us back in.
Something for everyone. Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
And I hope your week is going well. We've gotten to Thursday, kind of a rainy week this week, off and on. I did sneak a little golf in yesterday before I took off for the All-Star game last night. A few holes. Hey, here's Mike DeCourcy. I was just talking about sneaking in some golf yesterday before the All-Star game. Rain was coming down. I'm like, I don't care. I was out there by myself. Didn't care. I'm going to keep playing, man. I was like, but how's Mike DeCourcy doing?
Good.
It's good to have you on Thursday because, man, there's been a lot happen this week. Armand Hill has joined Indiana staff, bringing 50 years of experience as Indiana continues the experience trend. It's so funny. So much was being made out of whether or not Mike Woodson could reach these kids. The average age of Indiana's hierarchy right now is about 64, probably, with Thad Matta's in his 50s, but with Mike Woodson and now with Armand Hill. But it's tons of experience. These kids are not shying away from that.
No, I think that they've put together in place a staff that also is relatively young as well. I mean, people like Dane Fife. Dane he's not a kid, and he'd probably get mad at me for saying that, but he's certainly
he's in his 40s. Yeah,
he's right in the prime age for being an assistant coach. So I think that what one does and how one operates is more important necessarily than one's age.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've already seen that, and that's just how funny perception. People can just try to put a perception out, and that was one that was quickly dismissed. But one that is not being quickly dismissed, the Pacers. A lot of action there. Dustin Schutte's with me. He's with the Saturday Tradition. He's with me each Thursday. Big Pacer fan. We've been talking about this, but man, the Pacers, I think they have to look at their front office. When you put yourself, we were talking about when you extend a coach, fire him 2 weeks later, hire a coach, fire him after a year. Somebody's got that. There's too many millions of dollars being laid out for those kinds of decisions being made that obviously are not working and multiplied. And if you're anywhere else besides a mid-level place like Indiana, I don't see how a front office person keeps that job.
I think the first thing is player personnel is the trickiest part of running an NBA franchise. Indiana has done very well in that regard. And so from that standpoint, I think that what they've tried to do sometimes is they've tried to cover for circumstances that sometimes develop in the player personnel department by changing coaches when it really isn't necessary. And I think to an extent, it began when they removed Frank Vogel back, I think, in 2015. There was no need for it. There was no requirement. That team played hard for Frank. Look, if your guys don't play hard, if they don't play together, then you need a new coach. But if they do, then you probably don't. And I wrote back when Larry Bird announced the Frank Vogel dismissal that it was a mistake. Now they covered for that covered for that mistake by hiring a really terrific coach in Nate McMillan. And I again thought that his players played hard for him and they played together, and it wasn't necessary to remove him either. I don't believe in change for change's sake. I say that as someone who's followed the Pittsburgh Steelers for 50 plus years and who's seen that team have 3 different coaches during that period. And I believe in stability as a value as long as the players continue to connect with the coach in place. If they stop, the idea that people get tired of hearing the same voice is the most ridiculous. It's the second most ridiculous thing in the sports. The most ridiculous thing in sports is the idea of taking a team that is consistently successful, but maybe not championship successful, and blowing it up. That's the dumbest thing in professional sports. But the second worst is, well, the players are tired of listening to the same voice. Look, the players aren't the same. They rotate in and out all the time. You might have one person or 2 people that happen to be the same people, but for the most part, personnel changes. So nobody gets tired of hearing the same voice. They either listen to that voice because it's effective, or they don't. And in the case of Vogel and McMillan, those voices were effective. They didn't need to change coaches. They've got to stop changing coaches for changing coaches' sake, because it's not that easy to find another Nate McMillan or another Frank Vogel. And the Pacers proved that by trying to make one of them out of Bjorklund, and clearly it didn't work.
And Nate McMillan is clearly just showing them how bad it was. Of not having the patience of letting everything become a cohesive unit. And he's in the second round, and they're still playing. Go ahead, Dustin. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. I was just gonna say, what you said. I've been on the Frank Vogel. I've gone to sleep at night with tears in my eyes back when he got let go, because I loved having Frank in Indiana. And I go back to that team in, I think, 2014, and they were the number 1 team. They had won like their first 12, 13 games or something like that. And then we have you bring in Andrew Bynum, which didn't make any sense to me. You brought in Evan Turner. I know you're trying to win a championship, but that team had chemistry, and all of a sudden it got not blown up, but you added in pieces that didn't really make any sense to me. And then you obviously lose to the Heat in 6 games. So to the point is, I agree with you 100% on what you said about Frank Vogel, Nate McMillan. And the other thing that's interesting to me is there's this thought that if a coach isn't working after 3 years, or in this case, after 1 year, you have to make a change. But especially in the NBA, you're going to bring in somebody, you have no idea how the players are going to respond. So you could have another situation where you're going, below 500, you miss the playoffs. And so you're left at the same place basically that you were the year before.
Yeah, I think that the Pacers' number 1 problem right now is they have to find out, and maybe they know, maybe it was a financial thing. I don't know the answer to this, Dustin. Why didn't Paul George want to play here? Why didn't Victor want to stay? I mean, Victor was like the king of Indiana for as long as he was here, and all of a sudden he decided he didn't want to be here anymore. Why are players willing to stay in Portland or in San Antonio, but the elite player that happens to wind up here doesn't want to stay? I think that's a question that the fans have a right to understand. And I don't know if it is Pacers say no to that level of contract or whether there's something else, but I don't see any reason why someone like a Dame would be content to play in Portland, or someone like Tim Duncan would play his entire career in San Antonio. But Victor Oladipo, who played in college here, who came here and became a star only because he was here. Before he was here, he was not a star, and he was a very good player. He became a star because he came here, and then all of a sudden it wasn't good enough for him. And I think that I would like to know why that happened.
It has to be almost what we've talked about, the front office in some regard, because I go back to Paul George, and recently we found out that they tried to make a push for Anthony Davis, and basically the front office said, we're not going to do that. And I don't know whether that was money or whether that was a clash of style. And then you look at Victor Oladipo, he says he wants to leave and go win a championship. So what level of commitment is there to actually winning a championship? I mean, I'm not going to say those guys don't want to win a championship. That's the ultimate goal in the NBA, is to win it all. But clearly some of these star and high-end players don't think that the commitment is truly there. Otherwise, they would stay in Indiana. That's my belief, and that's why I think that you've seen guys like Paul George. I mean, we had Reggie Miller for 18 seasons. Rick Smits never decided to leave. You look at Jermaine O'Neal. He's a guy who loves Indiana. He wanted to be a Pacer his entire career. He's made that comment. So there was a time when there was this commitment to excellence and this thought that we would do anything to win a championship. And I just don't know if the commitment level is the same as it was back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Look out. Al Davis is pairing up with the commitment to excellence, baby.
Well, I think the commitment is more expensive now. With the max contract concept, I think it's more expensive. And so that's the question is, would I give Victor Oladipo the same money that someone gives James Harden or Kevin Durant? Right. I'm not stupid. Not as Kevin Pritchard. No, I wouldn't do that. Just because that's the max and you're a great player. No, I understand that. And I don't know whether there's someone else out there that would. But I do know that this is the second time in the last 6 years since I moved here that an all-star player, an all-NBA level player, has decided he would prefer to be elsewhere. And if I'm a Pacers fan, I want to know why. I want to know why the last two all-NBA type players that we got, or NBA all-star type players that we got, all of a sudden decided that Indianapolis wasn't big enough for them. When, again, if they had gone to the Lakers, something like that, I get the pull there, and I know that it's relatively universal, but there are places where that level of player is staying content. And I use Portland as an example of that. I've never heard Damian Lillard say he wants out. I mean, he's been there almost a decade now.
Yep.
A name that I want to talk about, Terry Stotz. That has been bannered around. How incredible, first of all, would that be? A guy who went to high school in Bloomington, was on the 19th. Speaking of last night, we had the All-Star game with the juniors and seniors. He was a member of the 1976 Indiana All-Star team. And somehow he escapes the entire state of Indiana, not just IU, the entire state of Indiana, and winds up at Oklahoma. I don't know how. I wasn't around then, so I don't know what happened. I'm looking at somebody else asked me that question last time. I'm like, well, Indiana was obviously loaded back then. And I was like, okay, well, surely there was somebody, though, that they could have made a room for that guy, although they were loaded. So I'm like, I don't know if that was the case, but it just seems so odd that a guy that good, potentially one of the best ever from Bloomington, doesn't go to IU.
I can't speak for that situation specifically, but like you said, I don't think that Bob had any shortage of great players in those days. But one thing that that's universally true is that if you have a great player especially from a town like Bloomington, but even in some of the bigger city situations, if you have a player who's a great high school player, and the college coach knows that he might be a good player for me, but he's not going to be my best player, or he's not going to be a star player, it's often best for that guy to leave. I'll give you a great example. When I was in Memphis covering the Tigers in the mid-90s, Cincinnati had a kid named Keith Greger, who the people in Memphis absolutely loved the guy. I mean, he was one of those guys who did all the little things And the Memphis people said, boy, wish we had a guy like Keith Gregor on our team. Didn't take a lot of shots, but played great defense and, hustle plays and all that sort of stuff. And then I moved to Cincinnati in 96 or early 97. And I gradually found out that everybody in Cincinnati thought that Bob Huggins was Keith Gregor because he was this big high school star and he never scored for them. Never scored for the Bearcats, but in high school, he scored a zillion points. So that's kind of why it's a good thing for a Terry Stotz maybe 50 years ago to think about going somewhere else. Or maybe that's why Bob wasn't wired up about recruiting him, because he didn't want that added pressure to try to make that kid a star while he was trying to win championships.
Can you imagine? Larry Bird was supposed to be on that team too. That stuff just cracks me up. You start thinking, I'm like going, it's funny if you start thinking about, and then you could go backwards. George McGinnis would have been on the front end of those teams. It's just crazy. You
may not have heard this, Jim, but there's a slogan: "We grow basketball here." That's where it comes from. I mean, because it's true.
I'm telling you, I was telling, I met a guy on the golf course the other day that was from some place that led to a conversation that I was talking about Floyd Central, my high school, when they went to their first Final Four back in 71. But that 71, that Final Four, I'm like, man, the talent that was on at that Final Four, I don't even know the other two teams, but I think it was Gary Watt. It was Gary Roosevelt at the time, but that's the team that had Pete Turgovich and Mel Stoudemire and Junior Bridgman. There was somebody else on that team. All the major league pitcher, a superstar NBA player. Turgovich played for UCLA. It was crazy. And then my high school had a guy that went to Kentucky, to Wake Forest, to Alabama, and I don't even know about the other two teams. And I'm like, it's just nuts. But yeah, and then the Terry Stotz thing. The talent, it just never ceases to amaze me. But I have to find out why. Why was he not recruited? I'm going to find that out. Let's see what else is baseball. The sticky stuff controversy, man. Garrett Cole, but of course he's not the only one. But this is a deal that's gone on in baseball forever. But this is different. This has gotten in scientific, where they're using the rotation spin count, and they're really trying to juice it. Where back in the days of Phil Niekro, he was just throwing some junk up there. But this is a whole different deal.
Well, when I was in junior high, I think I read a book called "Me and the Spitter" by Gaylord Perry, and it was it was an entertaining book in which he acknowledged, he acknowledged that he did a lot early in his career, but then said, "Oh no, and then I stopped doing that stuff." I don't know how true it was, but Gaylord's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not sure exactly why it would be okay for a pitcher to do that kind of stuff. But not for a batter to cork his bat or juice or whatever. I think in baseball sometimes it's treated like it's cute if pitchers cut the ball. That's what they used to do. They used to try to find ways to cut it. Now they just instead of trying to make the ball dip by having abnormal abrasions or cuts on the ball, now they try to make it spin by using the sticky stuff, and it's cheating, and it absolutely has no business in the game, and it's got to get out. And that's part of the reason why I think all of baseball, the last time I looked, all of baseball was hitting like 234 or something like that. I mean, that's a big reason why.
I think I saw that
too big an advantage.
5 years ago, the number of home runs versus strikeouts, those numbers have completely swapped. There's like 2,000 more strikeouts than hits. So yeah, and as these guys get stronger, the pitchers get stronger, and if it wasn't for the scientific data that they're using, back in the day of Phil Niekro, he was just doing what hey, this helps. He didn't know all that spin ratio and all that stuff, but it was funny to watch him go through his routine. This when he's up on the mound.
You're thinking of Joe. You're talking about
Joe Niekro. Was he the knuckleball?
Phil just threw the knuckleball.
Phil was the knuckle. Okay, Phil was
the one who was playing. Who was allegedly playing the games, and And so that you got to keep your Negros straight.
Man, it's hard to do. But that was, think about how baseball was back then. It was so funny going through all that stuff. He's up there touching his cap, touching his over here because you're not allowed to have anything anywhere. And he's trying to psych people out or all that stuff he's doing. Just funny. Baseball doesn't have those characters anymore either.
Well, no, that's true. I think some of that has to do with the way the game is covered now. It is covered more toward the analytic end, and so the development of that sort of character sort of has waned a bit. But I going back to your original point, when Garrett Cole was unable to answer the question about whether or not he had ever used that particular, I can't remember the name of the substance, but that particular substance that is known to make it easier to grip the ball and therefore put more spin on it. When he couldn't answer that question, I give him credit for not, for not wanting to be dishonest there. But I think it does say a lot about how baseball needs to do a better job of policing that aspect of its game.
Absolutely. I appreciate his honesty too, because he knew that he's like, all right, I'm caught, but I know I'm one of however many that are doing this. So am I going to bust them all out? How do I do this and not look like a liar? He really took the time to think, and but that goes back. Now we're going to continue to talk about people like Roger Clemens, toward the end of his career, and those guys. I mean, they started steroids, and what's the difference between steroids and this? I don't think there's a lot, because it's changing your performance in a modified way.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that's bothered me about baseball in recent years is dishonesty of the baseball writers in refusing to allow Bond or Clemens entry to the Hall of Fame, when very well know that other generations have put players into the Hall that engaged in such behaviors, and that behaviors in the game right now that are problematic. And the thing that bothers me the most is that they don't know who did and who didn't during that period. And I would bet pretty much most of what I own that there are players that they have put in who came from the era that Bonds and Clemens played, who did things that were similar, if not identical, to what has been alleged against Bonds and Clemens. And that bothers me. I think that's disingenuous on the part of the baseball writers to do that.
I agree.
Baseball writers, because a lot of them have voted for them to get in. For those that have refused to vote for them.
That brings up my last question. Does Pete Rose, does he deserve to? I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I know his gambling, but as long as he never bet on the Reds to lose, I just don't have a problem. I mean, he shouldn't have been betting, but that should not affect his playing Hall of Fame career. And I think he should be in for that. I think it's a disservice to Major League Baseball not having him in.
I agree. I think it's dishonest. Again, what he did, I have not ever seen, and anyone that wants to correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the problems that we're talking about, that were talked about in regards to Rose, were post-playing career. And look, no one wants to put the guy in the Hall of Fame for his managing. I mean, but he wasn't great. No one wants to do that. It was what he did as a player. For him not to be in the Hall of Fame, again, diminishes the Hall of Fame. If you ever read about what happened with the Ty Cobb and Tris Speaker, look it up online. What happened with them back in the day, and they're both in the Hall of Fame. I think it's not a complete Hall of Fame when you have the home run leader, the hits leader, and the greatest pitcher of the late 20th century not in the Hall of Fame. It kind of rings pretty hollow.
What you're working on, Mike? What do you have coming up next?
Yeah, I'm working on a piece about the fact that if you look at, I mean, we had a nice resurgence or maybe surge, I should say, maybe resurgence is the wrong word. But we had a nice surge in minority hirings for Division I men's college basketball coaches in this spring. We had many more African Americans hired than we've had recently.
The funny thing is, I never even noticed the fact that Indiana hired a coach that was a minority. I was just caught up in they hired a coach. And that may be the first time. I mean, because you're talking about it, and it just dawned on me. I'm like, wow, that never even. I was not. It was just about everything else. But sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. But what we haven't seen almost at all, and really over the last quarter century, and maybe all of college basketball history, we haven't seen the idea that the coaching ladder, so to speak, which goes from low major to mid major to high major, and sometimes then on to the NBA, that ladder never finds its way into the HBCUs. Almost never. I mean, over the last 25 years, I can find 4 coaches, Division I men's basketball, who've gone from HBCUs to jobs at other levels in other leagues, and 2 of those were Caucasians, and one of them was Mike Davis, who began his career at Indiana. So it's not like he only had coached at an HBCU before he went to Detroit. So there are coaches in the HBCUs who are doing phenomenal work. And the most obvious example would be Lavelle Moten at North Carolina Central right now. And why is that person not getting the kinds of looks that coach in the Southland Conference or in the Atlantic Sun or in the Big South, or where, any of the lower rated Division I leagues? There are coaches promoted, so to speak, out of those leagues all the time, but it almost never happens in the HBCUs with African American coaches. And I think that's a wrong that college basketball needs to address.
I agree. That's exactly. It's a lot of questions that comes up out of that. I don't know if you have a few minutes to stay through another segment, sure. But I wasn't going to ask, but I forgot. And how could I? But the NCAA and this name, image, likeness thing, this thing is coming to a head fast, and it's about the road. The end of the road is coming. That's not a light at the end of the tunnel. I think it's a train for the NCAA. Let's take a quick break. Mike's going to stay with us for a few more minutes, and we'll get him out of here. But we'll be right back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for...
Sorry, I forgot about that, man. I was like, oh, my God, yeah. Man, what are they going to do? I mean, this thing is 3 weeks away from becoming a reality.
Yeah.
And something will happen, I guess. But now you've got Mark Emmert running to Congress, and there's some congressmen saying, what the hell have you all been doing? Somebody has to do that.
We can talk about that. I mean, Marsha Blackburn said that yesterday. Not my favorite senator of all the senators.
Who was it?
Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee said, "Why have you not addressed this already?" And there are reasons for that, and I can talk about them.
I just wonder how it's if they can't stop those other 6.
Well, I mean, there still are NCAA rules, and if I can't stop them from a state law standpoint, but they still have rules that haven't been changed yet.
And the conferences, even just the conferences, the SEC itself, there's going to be teams within the conference that. Go ahead.
Georgia already has 2. One company has 2 football players signed up to take advantage of the NIL, and I think a golfer, a track athlete, and pitcher, maybe some baseball player from Georgia. So they've already got 5 players that they're planning to take advantage of the NIL. So, do
you have any idea what their kind of offers are? What they're?
I don't think that was in the Atlanta Business. I can't remember what it's called. Atlanta Business something. And I don't remember.
Atlanta Business Journal, probably.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't see any figures. Awfully easy for the government to also point the finger and just say you're not doing anything, but
exactly
that's my take on it.
Because that takes the point off of them.
Exactly.
All right, guys, I'm going to bring us back in.
You covered. They're Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Thursday. We're being joined by Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox, Big Ten. Man, you get off from those duties for the summer, at least, I guess, right?
Yeah, I do. Every now and then I go down to my basement to do something, put something away or something. And I look over and I'm like, I'll be seeing you in my camera. I'll be seeing you in a few months.
So it just stays set up the whole time?
Yeah, it just sits there. Yeah, for
Dustin Schutte from Saturday Edition with us as well, as always. Georgia. Dustin, you were talking about one of the states that is taking full advantage, or one of the 6 states, name, image, likeness, the NCAA. This is a train, 2 trains heading for each other on the same track. And this path is just getting shorter and shorter. And I never seen how it was going to end well. Even it's just, this stuff is just being put in place by people in different ways with there's no consistent way of measuring it, no consistent way of regulating it. And it's like, wow, is college sports about to just become worse?
Well, and I don't know if it's going to be better or worse. And I'd like to get, Mike's thoughts on this too, but there's always been this, for maybe 10 years now, it seems we've had these conversations about name, image, likeness. Should student athletes have the opportunity to earn money off their names? And I think we can all agree that a lot of us probably don't have a problem with somebody going out, signing a few autographs, making a couple $100. But the idea that there's black and white and that it's either it's good or it's bad, I think there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of unknowns. So the frustrating part on my end has always been let's just do this. Let's get it done and over with. It's going to make things so much easier. I think there's a lot of tricky things to go on here, a lot of intricacies that go on, and they just kind of get pushed to the wayside because we want student athletes to have that kind of freedom. And I don't disagree with that, but it's going to be a lot more complicated process than people are talking about, I think.
Yeah, the Twitter idea that it's easy and that it should be done. Well, it should be done. I mean, look, one of the senators in the hearing that took place yesterday on Capitol Hill, one of the senators said, basically, why isn't this done? Or you're not doing a good enough job of leading. And the reality is that they had a bill or whatever bylaw, whatever you want to call it, that was ready to be voted on in January. And they were warned by the Justice Department that the way it was constructed or whatever, that they were going to have a problem with antitrust or something. And so they pulled it back because they didn't want to get into trouble. So then when you said before, Jim, about can it be done easily? Well, yeah, it can be done easily. And that is Congress passes a law and says that college athletes have to have rights to their name, image, likeness, et cetera, maybe with these conditions or whatever it might be. Congress passes that law and it's done. I mean, it's not a problem anymore. But there are 2 elements. One was that Justice Department element, and the other element that nobody seems to want to acknowledge exists. And the reason why the NCAA has been trepidatious for several years about just blanket saying, here we go, here's we flipping a switch. When they did that in 2015 with cost of attendance, which they should always have had, but they finally said, okay, in 2015, we're going to do that. They had to pay over $200 million in what amounts to, quote, back pay to a class of athletes who were in school from 2009 to 2015. Over $220 million. Now, they have always been aware of that since the name, image, likeness thing started to get on the front burner. And they're like, if we do this, are we going to have this again? And no one acknowledges that. No, like literally no one will acknowledge that that's a concern other than what I've written. I have not seen anyone on Twitter who says it's an easy deal acknowledge that that concern exists for them. And if you bring it up, they say, well, it's their problem. Well, that's why it's not done. If you're wondering why it's not done, then that's why. So don't say it's easy when something that could be $1 billion. I mean, if $6,000, $7,000 a year, which is what cost of attendance was per athlete, and in some cases less, turned out to $228 million, how would you calculate name, image, and likeness payments for past athletes? So I understand why they are where they are. I'm willing to acknowledge that's what the situation is. And I understand why they want congressional action, because if the feds say you have to do it, then all of a sudden that concern about past liability goes away.
Van makes a point that is kind of a good point. He said if students can make money, then that's where their focus will be. He doesn't like it. Now, that's not going to be – we're talking, again, about a smaller percentage of people than you're thinking, most people are imagining. But I can see where that could become a distraction where money-making opportunities are going to clash with this. And I would say any coach is going to quickly squash that. But are you then going to have problems with saying, they're preventing me from doing this or somehow?
Hey, with immediate eligibility, you can't squash that. I mean, you can tell whether a kid's paying attention to practice and prep and training and all that, and whether he's doing what he's supposed to do on the field. But let's not forget, the people who do the best in regards to endorsements are almost exclusively those who do the best performing on the field of play. So I think the incentive to excel as an athlete would only be amplified if there were in-school financial rewards for that. So I understand Pastor Mann's point, but I think that it would be mitigated through the idea that, hey, if I'm a star player, I've got a chance to make money. And might they have other concerns? Yeah, but they also no longer have to maybe be concerned about the fact that their family really needs help back home and they don't have any way to provide it. Well, now they might, and then that takes a concern off their plate.
And then something else that comes up, I've seen it already happen, is player tampering, where players can just reach across in whatever form. They can do it publicly. They can publicly invite a player to come join them. Now, with name, image, likeness, there's how is that not going to increase? Hey, dude, I got this fat deal over here, man. You've got to come play with me, man. They got me set up with this car and all blah, blah. How is that just not going to happen?
Well, remember, Jim, one of the things about name, image, and likeness is that your name value is where you were established. So if you're a sophomore at, let's say, IU, you had, first of all, you're at a place where the athlete, especially basketball, but I mean, we've seen it happen in football as well, and swimming with Lily King. You're at a place where the focus is on you, and so you have the opportunity to build that name recognition. And all of a sudden, let's say you transfer to Iowa State. Well, now you have to build name recognition all over again. So I think it might actually even help with retention, because as long as you're an active athlete, and I understand, so we might get back to guys transferring because they're not playing, or ladies transferring because they're not playing. I mean, when you see a player like Adam Miller leave Illinois, who started every game as a freshman and who watched as the player on the opposite wing became a first-team All-American and then knew that player was leaving and was going to leave behind a truckload of shots and the potential for recognition. And if Adam Miller had been able to take advantage of those circumstances in the same way as Ayo Dosunmu did, the opportunity was wide open for him to be a star, and he still walked away from it. Well, maybe if he had a year of building his name and likeness, et cetera, in the Champaign and the greater Illinois alumni community, maybe all of a sudden the door doesn't look so inviting.
When's we talked earlier about it. When's your piece coming out that you're working on?
I will probably publish it next week. Just coming back off a vacation for a family wedding. Congratulations to Anthony and JT, and also congratulations to my niece Delaney, who graduated from high school this week. So I'm catching up a little bit. That's why we're delayed to Thursday. So I'll get back cracking at that piece and publish it sometime next week.
Well, your Pirates are not giving you anything to watch as they sit behind my Reds. So there's that. Pittsburgh's not having a good season, are they?
Well, they got rid of just about everybody on their team that had value, and they'll probably get rid of some more. They're in one of those strip it to the studs rebuilds that baseball makes so much fun.
Can't wait. Can't wait for next week to do it again, Mike. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you. The great Mike DeCourcy joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking... I'm sending both of you a text. Let's see. Dustin,
I think he called you Derek at the end there, unfortunately.
He did, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Name I've been called. I wanted to ask him about contracts and things like that.
I'm going to send you a picture. Hey, Chris Denari.
Hey, guys.
Anything happening in your world?
They fired the coach yesterday while I was playing golf. So.
Oh, well, that's always fun. Where were you playing?
I played in Apollo in Peru. It was an outing, Miami County YMCA outing that I play in every year. One of the all-time Indiana high school greats was there, Kyle Macy.
Oh, man. Oh, from Peru. That's right. He's from Peru.
Yep.
You were in my neck of the woods then.
Why? Where are you?
I was originally, I grew up from Logansport area.
Okay.
And,
baseball.
I went to one of your sons went to Manchester, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to college with him. I think he was 2 years behind me, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, Evan. Yeah, he went to Manchester. Now, where do you live, Dustin?
I live in Kennesaw, Georgia right now.
Okay.
Hopefully we're going to be changing that.
Yeah.
It's not going to, but not for a year. He's got that stupid lease.
Excuse me.
Yeah, we're going down to see our son. Evan lives in Myrtle Beach.
Oh wow.
What's
I
he
have
do?
family that lives down there.
He went down there working for a landscape company based here out of Indy, but he and two buddies a year ago, they own their own landscape company now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I had, this is back in the 80s, but my family lives in the Charlotte area, and they have since I was in high school. But then I had cousins down there, and I remember one summer going down there, and one of them had that type of a business, and I'm like, man, this would be a fun place to come spend the summer. So I ended up going to work for him doing that for the summer down there.
Yeah.
Not a bad gig. Not a bad gig, summer gig.
A lot of golf courses.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do that. I wasn't making enough money.
All right, I'm bringing
It
us
was
back in.
being a beach bum.
Right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Thursday. Joined now by the great Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers. Anything happening in your neck of the woods there, Christopher?
I was telling you yesterday I was playing in a charity golf outing up in Peru, Indiana at Rock Hollow Golf Club, which is a great track, and got word at about noon that the Pacers had released Nate Bjorkgren. And so in between some shots, Kevin Pritchard met with the media yesterday at about 3:00. So I was able, that's the beauty about technology. I was able to, on my phone, just see what Kevin had to say. I don't think it was any surprise to any of us, based on what we've talked about on this show the last few weeks. It was 3 weeks ago that Kevin Pritchard really had not given Nate Bjorkgren a full endorsement and said that he's our coach right now, but we'll have to wait and see. And so they made it official yesterday. So the Pacers, for the second year in a row, will be going through a coaching search.
Which is never fun, and it's never fun for the players. Now you've got a third style, I guess, that they're going to have to deal with, a third personality. But that's because the last one just didn't gel. There's probably going to be some player changes as well, too. So nothing ever stays pat and stays the same in professional sports. And a coach is going to he's probably going to want to have some of his own style of players. So there could be some changes there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, you're right. Last year, the Pacers brought back 13 of the 15 from the roster from 2 years ago, then had to make the trade early in the season with Victor Oladipo and got Karis LeVert, who fit in nicely, but it took a couple of months after he had the kidney surgery. So it's hard to believe that you would bring back 13 of the 15. I still think a majority of those guys will be back. Most of them are under contract. I think they're very good players. I think with the right system, with the right coach, this is a group that can flourish. But we'll have to find out. As you said, Jim, there's always a lot of moving parts, especially in professional sports. But it makes for a fascinating and interesting offseason. It's not one where you just sit and already look to next year. There are a lot of things that will have to happen before we get to training camp late September, early October.
I've probably been tearing Dustin up.
I was going to say, I've already aired my grievances. It's like a June Festivus in my home today. I'm just going to stick to the facts. One of the interesting things I thought from Kevin Pritchard's press conference yesterday was when he was talking about the hiring process, moving from Nate McMillan to Nate Bjorkgren. He said, we had, I think somewhere around 14, 15 candidates, and they had 50 pages of notes, and basically said, and how I took it was, we kind of overthought this whole thing. We tried to go a new route. We tried to get somebody who'd been with a championship franchise. But what I took was that he overthought it. And this time it seems like he wants to go a simpler route, maybe like I don't want to say gut instinct, but just kind of dumb this thing down. And I can't help but think that, with Terry Stotz not being the head coach at Portland right now, he's got to be priority target number one. And I know he didn't want to commit to anything in that press conference yesterday, but this seems like they're going to take a simpler path this time around. Is that kind of the notion you got listening to that interview?
Yeah, I think so, Dustin. And I think one of the things that, in the change they wanted to make with Nate Bjorkgren was, I hate to say it, a newer age coach, somebody that lends himself to analytics, and maybe they went too far. And maybe that was, part of Nate Bjorkgren's problem as well, as he relied too much on those types of things, the numbers, the analytics, and not enough on feel, on personality and how you have to deal with players and how you have to deal with stats. You can't do everything, off the computer screen or the iPad or the numbers. So Kevin Pritchard admitted yesterday, they had wanted to go a new route and it didn't work. And he said, it's on me, it's on our organization. We have to do better, and we plan on doing better. And I think they just didn't want to get stuck. Even though you're paying a coach for another year on his contract, you didn't want to get stuck that if nothing changes, if the coach that you're working with just simply doesn't make those changes that you expect, then where are you next November, December, or January? It's better to be in that position and make the change now here in June than give up another half of a season. And really, it would be giving up another full season. Now you'd have almost, I don't like to use the word wasted, but you would have 2 wasted seasons where you next summer have to find a new coach. And I think that's what they went about making the decision yesterday.
And another interesting thing that was discussed here was Kevin Pritchard talked a lot, not just about the head coaching job, but about having a competent staff and having guys who can help out, having guys on the staff, where they have certain strengths. And I go back to Frank Vogel's staff and Nate McMillan's staff. You had guys like David Shaw, Popeye Jones, Dan Burke. Even Nate McMillan was an assistant coach before he became the head coach on Frank Vogel's staff. So to me, this isn't just going to be a head coaching hire. This is going to be a head coaching hire who has the ability to hire some really good assistant coaches, because Kevin Pritchard made it clear that it's from, to have a successful team, you got to be good in that head coaching spot all the way down to the last assistant on your bench.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that really affected this team is when they hired Nate Bjorkgren. And again, he is considered one of those up-and-coming assistant coaches. It was on Nick Nurse's staff at Toronto. They won a title a couple of years ago. And I think we all know that sometimes, being a top assistant coach doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a great head coach. Now, the book is not out on Nate Bjorkgren. He can clearly, in his next opportunity, be a much better head coach than he was in the year with the Pacers. But I think one of the issues is that he didn't have a firm grasp on a staff. And so this staff was put together not necessarily around Nate Bjorkgren, but around contacts that the Pacers front office had. So I just wonder if there was never really a meshing of the head coach and the staff. And that can be problematic, right? When you don't have those individuals on the same page. So I think you're right. I think, just reading the tea leaves and listening to Kevin Pritchard yesterday, not only will it be important to hire what they feel is the right, and I think it will be an experienced head coach, it's to hire a coach that can bring with him a staff that he is very confident in, that, that can step in when you need him. And it's got to be collaborative, right? It can't just be the head coach here and all the assistants over here. It's got to be those people collaborating. And I think that's probably what was missing last year.
Where do the Pacers go from here? Or I mean, I know that's a guessing game for a lot of us, but where is the thought? Getting back to championship play is obviously something everybody wants to see, and the Simons won, and everybody, the fans, everyone wants that. But when you've got to go through a coaching search and maybe some player changes, you wonder, all right, how far are we away from that again? Are we starting over kind of a thing? But there's always that fresh start feeling as well to mitigate that.
Yeah, I don't think they want to start over. I mean, you look at a number of organizations. One of the reasons Steve Clifford now is available is Orlando has absolutely started over. They have gutted that franchise. They traded their 3 best players. That's not something in the DNA of the Pacers. It doesn't mean you can't make changes, and it's not a rebuild, I don't think, because you've got, in my estimation, you've got some really good players on this roster. Do you have players right now, or do you have a team that you feel is of the stature of Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee? Probably not. Those top 3 to me are far and away at the top of the East. But and then you have a young team like Atlanta that Nate McMillan is coaching. I mean, they're on the upswing. But everybody else, I mean, I think you're right there with the Miamis and the Bostons. Even though Boston has 2 or 3 All-Stars, Miami went to the finals last year. They maybe took a step back this year. New York is young. I think you're right there. I mean, I really do. I think you have the opportunity to be a top 4 seed. And I think the thing that has to happen, though, before, Jim, we talk about championship and all that, and that's what the Pacers were contending for back in 12, 13, and 14, you've got to commit yourself to winning in the playoffs and winning a first-round series, and that has not happened since 2014. They had a 5-year run where they were swept 4 times. They took the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron to 7, had a real chance to win that series. But you've got to become more of a factor in the first round, because before you can win a championship, you have to win that first round series. And that's something the Pacers haven't done in quite a while.
And
Yeah.
The more we talk about this, the more I think about the 2010, 2011 Pacers teams that weren't, they finished under 500. They got to the playoffs. They got beat by the Bulls. And then they really took that next step. And hearing Kevin Pritchard talk, basically saying we need we're one draft piece away. We're one free agent away. We need a guy to step up and be a leader. And I think about how much of a difference David West made when he came to the team to join Paul George and Roy Hibbert. Somebody needed to step up and say, this is going to be my team. And while we know it was Paul George's team, I think David West was probably the leader. In your estimation, I mean, I think the Pacers I agree with you. I've said it multiple times when we've talked about it. I think the pieces are there to be a contender. But in your estimation, I mean, are they just maybe one leader away, one guy coming in and saying, hey, this is how we're going to do things. I'm going to be the voice of the locker room to get to maybe a top 4 seed in the East?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, in 17, 18, 18, 19, Thaddeus Young was not the best player on the team, but Thaddeus Young was the leader of that team. As you said, David West was a really good player. He might have been the second best player on the team, but you're right. He was not the first. He was not the best player. It was Paul George. And so, Malcolm Brogdon, you feel like he has leadership tendencies, but he's not very vocal. And so we don't know what goes on in that locker room as far as who is leading who. But it would appear that they need somebody like a David West or a Thaddeus Young. Kevin Pritchard mentioned yesterday a guy that really didn't play a lot toward the end of his career, and he played with the Pacers, was Al Jefferson. But he was a veteran that had been there, and he was able to lean on players. He was able to work with Miles Turner. So sometimes you don't even have to have a player that plays a lot to lead, but I think it is helpful. And that's why I think somebody of the ilk of a David West or a Thaddeus Young could really be impactful and important for this present group.
What's coming up next for you? I know it's more of kind of a relaxing time until that phone call comes when you're on the golf course. But what's up for you next?
Just a lot of personal appearances. I mean, I end up playing in a lot of golf outings around the state, representing the Pacers, emceeing a number of events, and we'll just have to wait and see, what happens, with this coaching search. What it does, guys, is when you're out, it does feel more regular. It's been really neat to watch the NBA playoffs and see those great crowds in Phoenix and Utah. To watch the golf events, to turn on a Major League Baseball game and see the fans interacting, to go to the golf course yesterday and not have to wear a mask, So I think that's what I'm looking forward to the remainder of the summer, is just as we keep getting, hopefully, it's still out there. We know COVID-19 is still out there, but get farther and farther away from it so that we can lead a more normal life when fall comes.
Looking forward to it, brother. Have a great weekend. Have fun.
All right, thanks, guys. See you.
Thank you so much. Chris Denari joining us from the Indiana Pacers. We're back with more. A special guest, Jordan Hulls, is going to join us. Fresh off the ground, just landed in from Germany. Looking forward to talking, see how his playoff run went, and just to welcome him back home. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking at
I'm looking at the Indiana-Kentucky series right now, which Indiana has a commanding lead, but I didn't realize this. The beginning of it, Indiana was.
I just looked at the picture you sent.
That's an IU athlete.
Is that the same person you told me about the other day? Or no, that was a reporter.
Oh, well, possibly 18, 19, 20. All right, in the first 20 games played, the series record was 16-4 in favor of Indiana.
Wow.
That's how this series started, and it has stayed that way. Now I'll go back and look and see when is the last time. All right, Kentucky has won. Wow, they won back-to-back games in 17, but not in the same year. The last game of 17 and the first game of 18, but 1, 2, 3.
Do you know if Jordan is for sure joining? Like, did he get the link?
They've won 20 out of the last 22. Indiana's won 20 out of the last 22.
Wow.
Yes, he is.
Perfect. Good to know.
Oh, I'll send him a text.
So make sure he got the link from me, or that it was the right email, because there was an extra initial in there. It made me worry it was a typo. I mean, it may not be. It may be his actual middle name initial, but
Have you talked with him about the Mike Woodson hire?
I haven't talked to him at all. I mean, Harley.
So I don't think you've had him on since I started working with you, and that was right when
so.
the Woodson hire happened.
I was going to say, I'm just trying to think of questions.
Excuse me.
Late edition. Think on your feet.
Surprise guest, Jordan Halls. Yeehaw.
He says Dave Bliss took him to Oklahoma when he had just gotten the job there. IU had their guys already, which I kind of thought that. But where did Dave Bliss come from?
Like Baylor Dave Bliss?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. Where did he come from prior to going to Oklahoma? All right. So Wikipedia.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back in.
Deals like this. How about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month? Or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat. Reading over and finding out some, earlier we were talking to Mike DeCourcy about Terry Stotz. Why was he not? I've been doing some texting to some guys that would know, and John Leskowski filled in some blanks. One of which was I kind of thought IU had their guys already selected, which still, how do you not know this guy's coming along? But Dave Bliss, who was an assistant coach to Bob Knight from the time he got here, was one of his first assistants for 4 years through 75. He then got the head job at Oklahoma, and he takes Terry Stotz with him to Oklahoma, where he probably says, "Hey man, you'll be a star out here. Here you're just going to be another guy on a team that lost one game in the last 2 years." So there's that nice little tidbit. He began his coaching career as an assistant coach at Army under Bob Knight from 67 through 69. That means this is perfect. That means our special guest Jordan Hull's grandfather probably worked with Dave Bliss. Did you know Dave Bliss, Jordan Hulls? Welcome in. I don't know, I'm not sure if he can hear us, but Jordan Hulls. Pretty good, brother. How you doing?
That name sounds really familiar, but I'm not going on a lot of.
I was just talking about Terry Stotz is a name that's being bandied around because of the Pacers. Originally from Bloomington, went to Bloomington North High School. Graduated in 76, was on the 76 Indiana All-Star team, but played at Oklahoma. Dave Bliss had been an assistant with your grandfather, along with your grandfather, to Bob Knight at Army, comes here to Bloomington for 4 years. And then, and the very next season after Terry Stotz graduated, he gets the Oklahoma job. So he takes Terry Stotz to Oklahoma. So, and he left. And so there's that. That's just kind of a neat fill in the blank. How are you, man? I know you're tired. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. He was flying all day yesterday with the kids, 3 kids, the wife, bringing everything back. So thank you so much. Can you still hear us? Yeah, he's still having a little problems there, but we'll.
No, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you guys.
Solid,
can
man.
you hear me?
Absolutely. I'm thanking you for doing this. I know you're so tired, all the traveling that you've had to do yesterday with the kids and all that. Just got done doing that. So thank you so much for coming on today. Yeah, we're having a problem with his Wi-Fi. He's getting hooked up, but we'll get him reset, have him reset that. But yeah, good to have Jordan back. We'll get him reset. John, just tell him to kick off and reload there. Yeah. Jordan finished up. They were playing in the playoffs. This was the first time he had made the playoffs in his pro career over there in Europe. And this is probably his 8th season, I'm thinking, something like that. Was out questioned the best team he's been on over there. So I'm looking forward to finding out how that went. Looking forward to hearing his thoughts on all that coaching changes, Mike Woodson. But yeah, all that stuff I was just talking about, that's how he ended up in Bloomington. His grandfather was also an assistant to Bob Knight at Army with Dave Bliss, along with Dave Bliss, who came to Bloomington with Knight in 71 when he came to IU. And then we just learned what happened to Terry Stotz, which is ironic that he worked with Jordan's grandfather.
Such a small world.
It's crazy the stuff the how that goes on, but yeah, it's just now I have to get Pops on here, JC Halls, to talk about that. But Jordan's got some better connection now. Looks a lot better, man. Thanks a lot. Just wanted to thank you because I know this has been a lot of traveling for. Oh yeah, you're loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. You're loud and clear, brother. How's it been?
Man,
he can't hear us, unfortunately. But yeah, you're doing great, brother. You're coming through loud and clear.
it's good. Yeah, it's I can hear you. I think it's just a little delayed.
How are things going? How did the playoffs
Yeah,
end up?
to do this.
Well, we're gonna have problems with George's Wi-Fi again, so we'll get him connected. The funny thing is, the times we talked to him when he was in Germany, we had no issue. I'm serious.
Of course.
I was just having him do it by phone. But yeah, that's the funny. Now he's in Bloomington. He's within miles of me,
and
we're having problems with his connection.
Isn't that
It's just crazy. Yeah, technology is your friend or it's your worst enemy. But looking forward to talking to him about. And then we just have the All-Star game going on. A former All-Star. Yeah. And it was my first opportunity to really see Luke Brown play last night. Yeah, I'm not going to say he can't play with the, at the Big Ten level, but it would be interesting to see him against nothing but that type of competition to see how it is. You look great, Jordan Holes.
Now, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, brother. Can you hear us?
Yes, now. No, there's no delay and we're not lagging. We'll see how this works.
Awesome. Thank you so much, brother, for doing this. I know it's okay. I know you're tired. You just got in yesterday. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. It's 24 hours with no sleep with 3 kids on a 9-hour flight was a little rough yesterday. But we made it home. Had Buffalo's in the baggage claim area right when we got home, so couldn't have asked for anything better.
I'm gonna have to come over and cut the grass for you. I feel bad. All that coming on, man. I'll be over to cut and weed eat for you a little later. Don't worry.
I'll make my dad do it. I'll make him do it.
How did the playoffs go? I've not heard. I don't know. I'm wondering since you're back a little sooner than I thought. That not quite what. Hey, baby Margaret.
Say hey. Say hey. Yeah, no, playoffs were good. We were the number 1 seed. The first series that we had went to 5 games out of a 5-game series, but it shouldn't have gone that long maybe, but it was a team that played us really well, scouted us well. So got through the first round. Then the second round we played Munich, who was another really good team that we won the first game, then lost 3 in a row. So they're playing in the finals right now. But it was a good overall season. We were first place, like I said, at the end of the season. We went 30-4. Best team I've been on in Europe for sure. When it comes, especially in a high level with playing in Germany. So it was a really good year, both team-wise and personally. So really excited that I'm home now. My kids are super excited to see grandma and grandpa and stuff like that. But awesome year, and now just looking forward to training some kids, getting some good workouts in here in town, and doing that kind of stuff.
How long do you get to stay home? Is it 2 months?
It just depends on, when teams want you to report. Typically in a normal year, not COVID year, you go over anywhere between first week of August or end of August. So it's probably about the range that I'll probably be heading back as well.
Your training, your camps, you did a lot. Last year, COVID forced you to change things. You did a lot of training away and just everything on site, basically. Are you going to do that again? Or are you going to have your camp back, the JH1 camps? How's that going to go?
Yeah, since it's June 9th or 10th today, my summer is definitely a lot shorter this year than definitely last year. I was home a lot longer than usual last summer, but I'm going to be doing a lot more training. I don't know if I'll be able to do my camp again, unfortunately. I don't know when I can get in the gym and getting workers, and that's a lot more that goes into that rather than me just doing all the training myself, one-on-one and group work with kids of all ages and skill levels. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that. A couple of trips planned. Me and my wife are going on a little vacation to have some time to ourselves for once. We don't get to do anything by ourselves overseas that often. So we're looking forward to that, and then working a couple of tournaments for my dad as well. So it's always a busy summer, but we always try to make the most of it, seeing everybody that we can, and get my JH1 stuff going. And I appreciate all the people who have reached out already, trying to get trainings and stuff like that. So scheduling's that's my job now in the summer, so I got to do all that. But looking forward to doing that.
You'll be able to find all of that information at thehoosier.com. We'll get that up there for Jordan. So if you have a kid or know someone who is looking for that information to be there where you can make those arrangements. Looking forward to that. Coaching change at Indiana. Big news while you were gone. First of all, your thoughts on all that has happened.
Yeah, it's been a lot since I've been on. Yeah. I think it's really cool. I think Coach Woodson's going to do a great job. He'll be able to mesh in the old school and the tradition that IU is known for, that I grew up knowing and loving, and what we want Indiana basketball to get back to. But also he's played at a high level and coached at a high level. So I think he'll be able to relate to a lot of the guys in that way as well. And when it comes down to it, coaching is all about relationships, how you coach each kid, each person takes things differently, and you got to know that. So building those relationships and the staff that he's getting, seems really great. And I'm really excited to meet everybody this summer. Hopefully I can get in there and get some workouts in and just meet everybody. And, I love Indiana basketball as well. So I'm really excited about what the future holds.
Jordan, as a former player, how important is it to you to have a former player and somebody who knows the program? I mean, not just with Coach Mike Woodson, but now you have Dane Fife on the staff too. How important is that to have that those kind of Indiana ties to kind of bring back that tradition that's been so prominent with Indiana basketball for decades and decades?
Yeah, I think especially if you play in Indiana, and Coach played for Coach Knight, so that's what everybody knows Indiana basketball as. So he for sure gets it, and he can relay that. He's lived it, and now he can relay that to the kids that he's going to be coaching too. So I think it's really important that he can transfer that information and look, this is what I did, this is how it's done, and this is where it can be or can go. Of course, times have changed since I've been in college and playing. There's a lot of different rules and a lot of different things that you can do in the college game now, but at the end of the day, the tradition is tradition, and that's what we want as a fan now, and as a former player. We all want to see the program go as high as it can get, and be nationally known, and all that stuff that we all expect. So I think it's really cool that he can, like I said, he can go back and forth and relate to the kids in that aspect, and provide his experiences from playing and coaching.
We saw this team go through kind of a metamorphosis. A lot of new faces are coming in this next season. A lot of talent. What do you think that's going to be like when you have that kind of all those new faces, a lot of talented faces too? This is a much deeper team than it was. How do you get all those guys to come together quickly and gel as a team?
Yeah, I think that's also where Coach has, and with his coaching staff, he has a great feel for that, because you can get individually some of the best players and put them on a team, and the team isn't always good. So being able to know what you need and how you're going to coach a team, what schemes you run, you got to get players that fit that scheme, but also allows the players to develop and become better players themselves. So being able to manage that and at the pro level, that's what you have to do. You do that, at least in my experiences. You've had a lot of good players individually, but it's not always been the best team. But when you get guys who fit the pieces and you guys just mesh well, and relationships for me are huge. And I think the coach the player, but also player the player, all that work that you're putting together, that goes a long way. And I think, I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves. And like I said, hopefully I can get in there and do workouts myself and just see the guys and see how they work and move. And I'll be really excited to follow along with that.
As someone who has gone through the recruiting process, when you were a senior in high school, there was a lot of talk of because Woody's older and blah blah. There's that youth movement with Juwan Howard and Penny Hardaway, and everybody thought that that's how the direction Indiana should go. But then they went a complete opposite direction. Not only that, yesterday Armand Hill is added to the staff, who has 50 years of basketball experience, which means he's been in the game for a long time. Mm-hmm. That is, I think players actually gravitate towards that. If someone has knowledge, a player knows. It doesn't matter the age. You listen to what's being said, not where it's coming from. And as far as the age thing, if they know, they know. And I don't think that was going to be an issue, and it's not going to be an issue. But you went through that. How, if you looked at this coaching staff and say, hey, they're older guys, does that affect you in any way?
No, maybe I'm different, but it doesn't matter who's teaching the game. I'm 31 years old, and I still think I can really teach people the game of basketball just through my experiences alone. And these guys have been doing it for, like you said, a very long time. Why not use all that experience? And they get to, learn from mistakes, learn from failures, and get better from that. Especially at a high level, when you're coaching pros, all these kids want to go play professional basketball, right? So why not go and be coached by people who understand exactly what it takes? And yes, there's some luck involved no matter where you go. That could be in real life or in sports. Why not go and play for somebody who understands that business and understands what can get you there? If you got to get there first, and be coached by people who understand that, but also understand Indiana tradition. So I think that's why it's really cool to see, how the staff has come together and what players are coming in. And I'm very optimistic about it.
Well, man, I don't want to keep you too long because I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Like I said, I know you're tired as can be, but welcome. Let me be the first to welcome you back to Bloomington, Indiana, America, USA. You and Aubrey. Aubrey is the queen, the king, and the prince and princess in that family. We all know. So hopefully we can get her taken care of. But man, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks for having me. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but
we'll get your information back up on the site too for all your training and get you on the golf course.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I haven't played golf in a while, so that'll be good for me to get out. I have to ask my wife though first. She's the one who gets the first free pass in town before
probably
me,
a couple. Probably
yeah, more than one.
There's probably a salon day or two in her future.
100%. Or just to go to stores. We haven't been able to go into anything for 5 months, so we just want to go to a Target. We need to go and just do something. We haven't been able to do anything. So
was it that locked down in Germany your last 5 months?
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't go into stores, you couldn't go into restaurants. You get takeout and stuff. But other than that, we're in an apartment with 3 kids. My 2-year-old's, he's crazy. Just trying to keep him composed. You can only go to a playground so many times, and the weather in Europe is already not so friendly with that. So it's been a long 5 months with the family there for sure. But nevertheless, made us better, made us stronger, learned a lot. But now we get to enjoy, being back home, seeing family, and having some other human interaction than just telling our kids not to do things in the apartment.
Leo, crazy Leo. That's so funny. He's the man. Well, has he met Tom Allen yet?
No, but they'd be perfect for, like, he might be, hopefully Coach Allen's still coaching. Leo might be a football player. He just is a bull in a china shop, runs over everything, doesn't care, feels no pain. It's bad for our baby girl, actually. It's like I'm kind of scared.
He'll learn.
Yeah.
Brother, go get you some rest, man.
Hey, man, appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much. The great Jordan Hall's joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Thank you, brother. Hey, get me your information on it. Just take a rest, whatever you got to do. But whenever you want to get that stuff to me, I'll get it on the site and get it all out for you. And then I'll send you a text, and we'll hit the links whenever you can get away.
No, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'll do that. And like I said, this week I'm probably just getting stuff done around the house. But next week I'll start training, I think. I'm going to work a tournament for my dad and go on a couple trips.
Or is that Leo? Is that her? Is that Margaret?
Yeah, that's Leo. No, that's Leo.
I was going to say, was she a mime now?
No.
She had that thing in her mouth. I'm like, how is she doing that? Oh, that's Leo.
Say hey.
Hey, buddy.
Hi. Oh, yeah, they're up bright and early, 5 a.m. this morning. So.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Woo! Time change. Give them nuts? Okay, perfect. Good job. Right here at the green light. Perfect. Good job.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I'll talk to you. Charlie Miller, because Charlie Miller talked about maybe trying to do a camp or something. That instead, since you can't do what you would normally do, that may be something to do with some other guys, because I've talked to some other guys who are interested. So I'll talk to you about that.
That'd be good, yeah. And
because IU's not doing team camps this year.
Zero.
Zero.
Wow.
So there's a lot of opportunity there,
and people are going to want to get their kids out. Yeah.
And and the kids are going to want. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait till he gets home. But I didn't think you'd be home this soon. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So get you some rest, and then we'll talk about it.
Sounds great, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. Have a great one.
Yep. See ya.
All right. Oh, yeah. I need one more thing to do.
Yeah,
I always do. I do that to myself, and then I'm like,
you overcommit.
Complain. Oh, it's not commit. I create.
Oh, overcreate.
But it's like, I don't know. It's the curse of having a deformed brain. It just keeps
stuff like that.
It keeps spitting out ideas. But I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. And I can't keep up with the ideas.
Well, come on. It comes from a good place. So there's that.
Good intent.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to bring us back.
The road to hell is paved
and much
with
more.
good intentions.
Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Thursday with Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. As always, man, this has been another fun day. Just finished up with Jordan Hulls. Brought you him fresh off of the tarmac as he has landed from Germany and is back.
I'm going to have some envious friends and family members because back when he was a player, I had some good friends and family members who had giant man crushes on Jordan Hulls. So I'll be sure that they watch this episode on YouTube. But a great interview and awesome of him to join us, even though he's on 72 hours of no sleep. So that was awesome.
Well, and that came immediately after the end of the season. It's like, bam. Yeah. As soon as you can get out of Dodge, you want to get out of Dodge. So absolutely a gigantic thanks to our great friend of the show, Jordan Hulls. And we'll get that information up in regards to, and he's got to get right to work. He'll take a few days and then he'll get right to doing all that because that's what you have to do. And then you got to squeeze in, like you heard him say, try to squeeze in a little time with the wife. Because they've been on lockdown. You think it's been rough here? Man, they've been on lockdown with 3 kids in a foreign country.
In an apartment.
Yeah, that's a little rough. And you've only got 2 months to have fun. But we've got another 20 minutes to have fun. So, man, what in the world did we not talk about today already?
That's a great question. We've hit on all the important topics already. Like I said, the one thing I want to go back to on the NIL, and I would like to ask Mike this next week if you get the chance, if he's on, whether it's Thursday or Wednesday or whatever day he's going to be on. But the thing I always think about is when you go back to that ESPN 30 for 30 broke, and you see all these famous, NFL, NBA stars who signed all these contracts, were given bad advice. My question is that now going to trickle down to these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids with these contracts? And what are schools going to do to prepare them to not get taken advantage of? Because, let's face it, I think that a lot of people would be well-intentioned, a lot of business owners well-intentioned, but there are a lot of weaselly, slimy people out there. And if they can put a kid in a bind and get a lot of his money, way to make a buck, that's going to be a problem. Not everywhere, but you're going to see kids fall to that because, again, they're 17, 18, 19 years old, and God knows I didn't make the best decisions at that time. I didn't make the best decisions when I was 25. Still don't. So I'm just interested to see what schools are going to be doing to prevent these kind of situations from happening.
Great point. Great question. And, yeah, there's some of these – this is going to be a 1% thing. This is not going to be a 1 through 12. Well, at certain places, but certain places maybe it is. But it's a one. The best players make the most money. That's going to now that will trickle down. That's going to be the same thing. I think.
Let me throw this out there because we talked about Georgia, and I don't remember if we said this when we were talking on a break or live on air, but 2 Georgia football players have reportedly signed deals with an apparel company, I think it's like a men's apparel company in Atlanta, a backup quarterback who hasn't taken a snap, a place kicker, and then you have a pitcher, or a baseball player, I should say, a golfer and a track athlete. So what happened, if it's men's apparel, I'm guessing this is more about appearance than it is on talent. So what happens in that locker room when you have a guy who's a backup quarterback, hasn't taken a snap, or a kicker who's on the field, 2 or 3 times a game, and maybe your star running back isn't getting any offers, or your future NFL defensive lineman maybe makes half of what this backup quarterback makes. I mean, I'm not saying, I think in most cases you're going to be right. The star player is going to get the case.
But it's also going to be a lot of other things. Pretty faces, well-spoken. Yep. How are you the Peyton Manning type? That when I say, he just gravitated towards commercials. He was just naturally good at it. It's just, there's a Pandora's box of questions. It's crazy. Hoosier fan says, I'm sure I'm way behind the live feed, but why is the government even involved? This is about name, image, likeness. Can't the NCAA meet with the universities, coaches, players, and families and work out an agreement? This is moronic. Well, no, they can't, because Mark Emmert and the rest of those monkeys have stuck their head in the sand for so long and refused to bow. Well, now they're saying, oh, yeah, we want to do this. Well, yeah, because the ship's about to run over you. It's 3 weeks away from running over you. And now they want to do something. How long ago was it? It wasn't that long ago that he said no.
Yeah.
Within a year, maybe, that he didn't. So, no, they haven't tried. That's why they're in this position, because they've refused to do it. Well, they're getting passed by. Time is passing by. It's like a tsunami.
And we even talked about this yesterday. This is all coming to a head, and it seems like it's coming so fast. You said it's like a train that's about to hit the NCAA, because again, if you would have taken gradual steps to address this, if you would have gotten rid of some of those ridiculous rules that applied to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and changed with the times, you're probably not seeing this right now. You're probably seeing gradual changes, things that would be a little bit easier, and you could do it step by step. But guess
what change they didn't make? Mark Emmert, and he's been the one. Yeah, yep. They've made a ton of money, but they've made a ton of money because they've kept it all, not because of Mark Emmert's leadership. Mark Emmert is not some genius. I am not understanding, again, why in the crap they're paying this dude the money they're paying him to be the moron that he is, and to put them in the situation that they're in now. And something will happen, because if it doesn't, college athletics is on the verge of a serious, serious problem. So something's going to happen to alleviate it. It has to.
And one of the senators, I don't know who this was, but I believe one of the senators asked Mark Emmert, it's come to this situation, and don't you need to reflect on yourself and your leadership ability? And he basically said, that's not a question for me. That's a question for the people around me. And to his credit, I actually agree with him on that, because the people around him, those are the people that renewed his contract, that said you can be here for whatever, through 2020.
It's the universities. It's all these schools.
But all they're seeing is, and while I agree that the NCAA, college basketball, college football, all these sports, those are the things making money, not Mark Emmert. But these presidents and all these, whoever else is involved with this decision-making process, all they see is that Mark Emmert brings them a ton of money from March Madness, from the college football playoff,
but he's not bringing that. That's going to be there. Whether that's like people saying that Fred Glass is responsible for the facilities at Indiana. That is the biggest joke in the world. He's not. He happened to be there when all of this Big Ten money came flooding in that they had to build these facilities with.
But somebody has to take credit for it.
Of course.
That's what he's doing.
Not there to take credit for the $50 million he cost Indiana and those bogus contracts to Tom Crean and Archie Miller, though. The $50 million or close to that, $40 million that he personally cost Indiana. So no, let's change the subject. Last night, the All-Star game, Indiana juniors and seniors went at it. Afterwards, got to speak to CJ Gunn, an Indiana commit and target, and then target Jalen Washington from Gary West. He's a target of everybody. He didn't get to play last night, but I don't know which one you have up first, John, but we'll go with CJ Gunn, I guess. I talked to CJ. He was active. He didn't have a great shooting night, but man, he was active in so many other ways. He had 3 blocks, just very athletic. And that junior team, they stayed in contention the whole night until the very end, was just like the state championship game, man. It was there. So he knows about being in big games. I talked to him had a chance to talk to him for a little bit. Let's hear what he had to say.
I guess let's begin with this experience today. What was it like to face the seniors and get that block against Caleb first?
It's great to go against the older guys. Obviously, in the season, we go against seniors all the time, but to have the best in the state is fun to play out here.
What's your vertical?
33 inches.
33 inches. So getting up on first on that block, what was that kind of like, and how that energized you?
I knew he was missing basketball, so I know I'm gonna block it, so I just jumped up with him. So I'm not scared of anybody at the rim.
A lot of block out here tonight, CJ. A lot of Purdue people, a lot of Purdue guys on the court. You're the lone Hoosier as of right now. What was it like out there carrying that banner?
It's great carrying IU on my back and representing for the state, and it's great to show off for my state and for the love of the people.
You committed under Archie Miller, and then Mike Woodson comes in. There's a coaching change. What was it about Coach Woodson that sold you to stay with the commitment?
I think he's committed to me, and he believes in me and what I can bring to the program. And obviously, he has that NBA experience. He played in the league, coached in the league for multiple years. So I think he's really going to develop me as a freshman and however long I stay there.
Talking about development, what are some of the things that you feel like you're strong at? What do you want to work on this summer?
I believe my mid-range is a great part of my game and my athleticism. I think that what I have to develop is my shot consistency and my ball handling.
How are you going to do that? Are you a guy that takes like 300, 400, 500 shots a day?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the gym 2-3 times a day. So I'm just trying to build that over the summer and get ready for July for PGM and really show what I can do.
How hard is it when you've got another year of high school to go yet, and yet you know that Indiana's waiting on the other side of that, and you see all these exciting things that are happening, the changes. How hard is it to have to wait another year to have to be down in Bloomington?
It's a struggle. I'm ready to go down there right now, but I have to focus on what's at hand in my high school team, and we lost a pretty majority of our team last year with the seniors, so I'm just getting ready to get the younger kids developed and all that.
You guys went to the state championship game, a great tough loss to Carmel, but you'll be back, of course, so you got that, and it's always a challenge to get back there. Of course, that has got to be your goal to get back to the state championship, but you just mentioned how difficult that's going to be, but that's going to give you a lot more opportunity to show your game.
Yep, I'm willing to take on that leadership role and bring the other guys under me and hopefully show them how to lead their team next year, so I'm ready for that responsibility.
Is that something that you look forward to using to go into college?
Yes, sir. I can't wait. I think it's going to help me a ton when I get down to IU.
You had a pretty talented team at Lawrence North, too. You had, Shamar Vance as a senior all-star, and then Donovan McCulley is playing football.
Yep. Donovan, they're both two of my closest friends, and Donovan's obviously down there. Hopefully he's down there when I get there so I have somebody to hang out with down there, but those are both my guys.
So anything else about Indiana right now that you're particularly excited about, or what are your thoughts about maybe the direction of the program, some of the other commitments that they've gotten, and where they are?
I love all the coaches, Coach Fife, Coach Hunter, Coach Wilson. I think they all show me love every day, and they obviously care about me, and they believe in me. And so I can't wait to go down there and meet the guys like Logan Duncombe, the new commit they just had from IMG. I can't remember his name off the top, but
Tamar Bates.
Yep, Tamar Bates. So I want to go down there for open runs soon, so I can meet those guys.
Talk about your development here in the spring and as you go into the summer. How's that been like? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just wanting to get in the gym with Coach Good at LN or N14 with Nick and Courtney Roby, who's also an IU alumni. I think they're really going to help me develop over the summer and get ready for next year.
Your older sister is a basketball player at Valpo. What's it like growing up with her? Did you guys play a lot of one-on-one?
Yeah, we played a lot of 1v1. She's the one that taught me how to bring that dog out in me. We obviously were playing back and forth, crying, bleeding. So that's my number one supporter and my best friend. So I love her to death for that.
How old were you when you finally beat her?
She can't really mess with me now. I'm too grown, but probably a couple years ago.
Awesome. Well, hey.
That was Indiana commit CJ Gunn last night at the Indiana Junior Senior All-Star Game. Also had an opportunity to talk to everybody's coveting Jalen Washington, six-time man out of Gary West, and had a chance to talk to him. And here's what he had to say.
2-0.
Jalen, talk recruiting-wise. You're going to be the top undecided senior coming into next year in the state. Talk about the attention that you're going to be getting and all of that. Are you looking forward to that, or is it something that you'd rather not have to deal with?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of it. I feel like it comes with being one of the top players in the country. So whatever comes with that, I'll embrace it.
Indiana, of course, one of the schools that has been following you with great interest. What has that been like? There's obviously a coaching change with there. What has that been like for you, and how's your relationship with that staff?
It's still been good. We still keep a good relationship. Coach Dane Fife had recruited me when he was at Michigan State, and he's still recruiting me now pretty hard at Indiana. So he's a real good guy. I know him pretty well now, and they're just letting me know that they have the best situation for me at Indiana.
Where does Indiana sit right now in your recruiting? I know there's a lot of schools that are coming at you, but do you have any kind of a top 5 or anything like that?
No, they're one of the freaking schools that recruits me, and I'm highly interested in Indiana.
What about Indiana draws your attention?
The basketball history and having a coach come from the highest level that I want to get to, being at the college level now. That's what really interests me the most.
And what attracts you about going to say, in Indiana, a school that has so much tradition, but has not been where they'd like to be for the last couple of years, but looks to be getting back? A lot of players love to be a part of bringing that back. Is that something that you would like to be a part of?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of a great school like Indiana, having a lot of great Hoosiers come across out of that program, and, a huge fan base as well.
You got to play with C.J. Gunn, an Indiana commit. What's it been like playing with him?
Oh, he's a great teammate. He's a great player, and I'm sure he's going to do great at Indiana.
Thank you, brother.
No problem.
That was Jalen Washington. Man, that's somebody that everybody wants. Looking forward to getting him or talking to him and see where he goes. But he's going to be a very well-spoken young man. Both the guys very well-spoken. It was great talking to him. It's just fun to see how just better speaking athletes are today. I mean, they're so much more accustomed to dealing with this, and it makes it even more fun. But we got to quickly wrap up. It's been a blast of a day, Dustin. This has been fun.
Yeah, it's always fun, and it's been a great 2 days, and I can't wait to do it again next week.
Me too. What you got coming up this weekend, man?
Just, trying to avoid the rain. No golf this weekend. Just staying in and probably watching some movies or something.
Well, I'll try to do the opposite, but I hope everybody else goes out and has a great one. But I want to make sure I thank Dustin immensely for the last 2 days. Chris Denari, big thanks to Jordan Hulls, of course, who took his time to come out. Did I miss anybody, John?
Mike DeCourcy.
Mike DeCourcy was on today. That's right. I forgot Mike was on. Thanks to Big Mike. So a heck of a day, man. But most importantly, like I said, thanks to you guys. Without you all, we've got nothing to do. We're back tomorrow to do this once again. Another big show. Some surprises. I think we've got AJ Guyton, Charlie Miller will be on, and Gary Reedus is going to be back. So all kinds of stuff. Go out and have yourselves a great day and do something nice for somebody. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.